Hey, welcome. Here's to your good health. My name is Linda Prezioso. I'm a nurse practitioner at Family Medical Center, and tonight I have my dear friend and peer and co-worker and what else? She's my attorney, Carolyn Cusick Crawford, who is going to talk to us tonight about end-of-life issues. And I know we don't want to talk about these things, especially at the holidays, and a lot of people probably aren't traveling, but for those of you who haven't seen Mom for a while and you're going back or going to see her, you might be surprised at how much she has gone downhill since the last time you saw her. You know, we age, and if we don't see our loved ones on a regular basis, that aging process can get to be a little more of a shock because we haven't seen them. So we're going to talk about that. I'm sorry it's kind of a morbid subject, but it is such a very, very important subject. And I just want to keep my people informed about all that's out there. So welcome, Caroline. It's good to see you.
Thank you. It's so good to be here and talk with you today.
Yes, we've been yapping all the way here. We both live in Red Oak, so I picked her up. And of course, I texted her, I said, I'll pick you up at 6:55. And then I called her at 6:25 and I said, that was wrong. I hope you're ready because I'll be there in 5 minutes.
It was all right. We were ready anyway. So I'm so glad to be here.
Yes.
And this is a great topic.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be a sad topic or a morbid topic. It's important.
It is.
And even this week, I had a client that I met with who is on the other side of losing a loved one, and she said, of all the things that I've learned, people tried to get me to talk about this before, and she said she didn't want to talk about it, and she didn't want to talk about it, and she said, now that I've gone through it, I want everybody to know they need to go ahead and talk about it.
Yes.
Before it's too late,
Yes.
while you still can.
Yes.
Talk about end-of-life wishes and planning and all of these things.
So what Mom and Dad want, or what your spouse wants, or you know, whoever it is that you're close to that's going through this. So,
right. People, it's a sad thing to talk about when you look at it as an end, but if you look at it as preparing for what you want to happen and to have peace in your family and have your affairs in order in that last stage of life, it's so important, and it can take a burden off of you, and it can take a burden off of your family members and your loved ones as they're trying to make decisions on your behalf.
Right. And Caroline, her mom's got Alzheimer's, and so she doesn't even really recognize Caroline, and she's in a nursing home. They live in, her mom and dad live in Louisiana. So Caroline and her husband just went and spent a few days there with her daddy, and she saw her mom. She had to see her through the window, which is, I don't know, it's so sad. I understand the reason, but I just feel so badly for these people who they have no touch, they have no love, they have no specialness. I mean, I know that the employees can perform some of that,
yes,
but it's not the same as a daughter or a husband.
They, at this time, they have the hope of being able to get the vaccination for COVID, and they have the hope that by becoming vaccinated it will improve the visitation.
I hope so.
If the plan where they are is if the patients in the nursing homes and their visitors have been vaccinated and they have that on record, then they will be able to get in there and visit. Your daddy will be
first in line, won't he?
Already. He is just so excited about getting the vaccination so that he can be in there and hold her hand and spend time together, and not just have limited visits through a glass. But we do what we have to do.
You do what you have to do. That's exactly right. And I'm not going to talk about the vaccine because
that's a whole other topic.
That's right. But other show. But we will talk about end of life. So we were talking just before we started on the show about why it was so important for people to have power of attorney for both finances and for medical say-so. So why don't you can expound on that a little bit, especially just with your own dad and mom.
Okay. The power of attorney, I'm going to speak mostly to the way things are handled here in North Carolina, because that's where I practice law, is in this state, and each state has some specific regulations, so things that I say about North Carolina may not apply in every state, but certainly they do here. We have separate powers of attorney documentation for legal matters and for healthcare matters, and they don't cross. One flat power of attorney does not give you the authority to operate in both lanes. You really need to address both of them. You can appoint the same person as both your healthcare power of attorney and your financial or general power of attorney, but the duties are separate and they have to be delegated through those separate legal instruments. In the healthcare setting, what we were talking about before, we were talking about how once my mother reached a point where she could not sign for herself, she could not make decisions for herself about when to go to the doctor or where she wanted to have her care, and when it came time to be placed in a nursing home or a facility so she could get the round-the-clock care that we just could not give her in the home anymore. My father needed to have documents in place so he would have the authority to help her get where she needed to be. Without those documents, it was going to be tremendously more difficult. Also dealing with her insurance and getting all of the insurance and payors lined up so that the transition into a facility would be seamless. The healthcare providers and insurance providers, including Medicare and government organizations, needed to know and have proof and documentation that she had given him that kind of authority. So the insurance companies were free to speak with him about her care.
Otherwise, they couldn't.
Well, how silly. Of course they have to speak with him. They can't speak to her. She can't make those decisions anymore. But it doesn't work that seamlessly. They still have to guard her privacy 100%, and they do a great job of that. But because she had planned before she got sick, before she even knew that there was a problem coming, she had put in place a healthcare power of attorney and a general power of attorney. So when it came time to pay bills on her behalf, to pay for her doctor visits, to pay for her medicines, that my dad had the authority, both as her spouse in you can go as a spouse to the pharmacy and pick up medicines for someone, but you can't always sign medical waivers or sign to have someone admitted into a nursing facility unless you have those
or
in
sign
place.
For an emergency surgery. God forbid you would need that.
That's right. It really takes the burden off of the person who's suffering, and it takes the burden off of the family members, because in some cases, and I feel like I'm talking too much, but in some cases, people have a variety of opinions and a variety of perspectives in their family about what healthcare procedures should be done. You mentioned if you needed emergency surgery. Well, if I have several different people in my family, and one may have a different opinion than another, it's important that the person themselves, the patient, has picked and appointed the right person to be the power of attorney for healthcare decisions, so that the person making those decisions is going to be aware of what they would have wanted and of like mind, and know that they're making decisions on behalf of the patient, on behalf of the sick person, in accordance with what they would have wanted. And if you don't talk about those things, your kids will never know what it is you would have wanted.
That's right.
Would you have wanted your leg to be cut off if it came to that? Would you want to have your limbs amputated to keep you alive? Would you want to have open heart surgery? Would you want to be unconscious and on a ventilator indefinitely? You need to talk to your kids about or your spouse. Some people won't even talk to their spouse about it, because it's, as some people think, as if we mention it, it will bring it upon us. We don't have that much power. You know, I can mention that it's a beautiful sunny day outside and it's warm, but no, my words don't have that power. Reality is reality. It's cold outside and it's dark. So
very dark, but the stars are beautiful.
So go ahead and talk about these things. Bring it to light. Talk about it while you're healthy is the best time to talk about it. Not to, and it doesn't, there's, you know, the superstition that if we talk about it, it brings it upon us. I've heard that so many times. I'm sure you have too.
Yes.
We just don't want to talk about it. It'll happen later. We'll worry about that when it happens.
We'll cross that bridge later. But sometimes you get to that bridge a lot quicker than you thought you would.
That's right. We just don't know.
We don't know.
No one knows the day of his death. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
So we have to live each day to the best of our ability and plan for the future. We have a responsibility to ourselves and our families, I believe, to talk about these important things and make a plan. It doesn't have to be a plan that you make alone. You can reach out to your healthcare providers to talk about these things. You can reach out to an attorney like myself who has a background in nursing, so I understand the grief and the fear of dealing with health problems that you can't control. I get it. It's terrifying to see your future and think, well, I might not have control over that. But this is one way that you can take back a little bit of control and make sure that your own voice is heard, even when you can't say the words for yourself anymore.
And because Caroline and I are nurses, and because we both worked in the ER, which probably brings out the worst of the worst, and then I worked in ICU for a while, and that definitely can be the worst of the worst, depending upon what the prognosis is, what the outcome could be. And I remember one time I was in case management then, and there was a lady that was on the ventilator, couldn't get her off, and they talked, the doctors talked, the nurses talked to the husband till they were blue in the face. You know, we really have to take Mrs. Jones, whatever her name was, off the ventilator, and no. And so finally one day he broke down, and he was talking to, I think, one of the ICU nurses, and it came to light that he has been saying no because he didn't have the money to bury her. And so, you know, you never know what kind of situation you're going to be in, what kind of scenario. But I can tell you from personal experience, and I know Caroline can back this up, that there are plenty of times that mama passes away or needs to pass away, and she's got 5 children or 3 children, and 2 children agree this way and the other couple agree that way, and then there's one way out in left field someplace. And if you have all that done and taken care of, then the one that's way out in left field, they have no say because mama has already said it and it's written in law. And so it's just really, really important that we talk about this. And I always talk about this during the holidays, even though it's, you know, it's a kind of a negative subject, but it's when we see our families, you know, and I'm not sure how many of y'all are going to see your families this year, who knows. I am blessed that all mine came home. I had 14 I might get in trouble, I shouldn't say that out loud. I had 14 at my house for
But you were well spaced out. You had lots of distance.
I have lots of, you know, we sat in 2 different rooms and ate, and then it was a very nice day, and so the boys were out in the field, out in the woods. They were shooting squirrels, and some other ones were shooting targets, and some of us ladies sat on the patio and just chit-chatted. So, you know, we weren't all hovered together. Couldn't get that word out. But anyway, so this is a great time to talk to your family. Yes, it's kind of, well, it is. It's uncomfortable, but you know, we're all going to die. I mean, we are born to die. None of us want to go tonight or tomorrow, but we don't have that say so either. But I do want, when it is my time, I want to make sure that I have the care I need, but if the doctor said there's really no hope, then that's pull the plug, man, that's what I want. But unless I have that in writing and my husband says, no, I'm not going to go anywhere. And,
Sometimes it's a matter of prolonging your death rather than prolonging your life.
Yes.
And it just, for the person who's trapped inside of that, it's prolonging the suffering
That's
of
right.
the person. And every healthcare situation, every individual situation is different, and there's no one-size-fits-all formula for this, which is why it's so important that people talk about what their own wishes are and communicate that to their family. And as you prepare legal documents for end of life, some people call it an advance directive, some people call it a living will. Either way, the contents of that document are going to be the same. And you have the power, while you have the voice to do it, to say, if this happens, then I want XYZ.
Right.
If something else happens, then I want 1, 2, 3. And you have the power to make that decision if you talk about it in advance while you still can.
Right.
And that's what I encourage people to do, and I know you do too, Linda. You
Yes.
encourage people to plan in advance before something bad happens,
Yes.
so that they can have those measures in place.
And I, because I work in a healthcare facility, I start talking to my patients when they're 65. Not that I don't think anybody's going to go at 65. It's just a matter of the more you hear it, the more you get it, the more you absorb it, the more you understand how important it is. So, I ask everybody, at 65 and up, once a year, what are your plans? Have you gotten plans? I've given Caroline's card out to several of my patients who say, well, that probably is a good idea. So, and there's other attorneys in town, I guess. Does any general attorney do this?
Mostly.
Okay.
There are some attorneys who specialize in other things, but most attorneys can help people with wills and advance directives and power of attorney. And then there are others who specialize in that. And my personal private practice specializes in wills, advance directives, end-of-life preparation, and planning in that way to help people prepare for the future through your will, through your trusts, through advance directives and healthcare power of attorneys to make sure that things are in place. And the other side of my practice focuses on real estate. And most of the time with your estate and what you own, the earth that you live on, the house that you live in is one of your greatest assets. And what's going to happen to that in the future is very important. So those are, to me, I see those two areas of law as very connected and very related.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
most any attorney
So if
is
somebody's
able
used
to
an
do that.
attorney for something else and you like John Jones,
Absolutely.
but if you don't know of anybody, my friend Caroline's right there, and she'll be
Yeah.
happy to take care of you, and she'll take good care of you. I love Caroline because I'm starting another business, and I just said, hey, this is what I'm doing. Just do what you got to do, and I'll sign the papers. That's pretty much what I said, and that's pretty much what you did.
So we created your business organization,
Yes.
and once everything was lined up with the Secretary of State, I called you back, and we met
Yes.
together and went through all your documents, and you were ready to go.
That's right. So I'm legal with the state, I'm legal with the Board of Nursing,
Yep.
and I think that's all the legalities I have to worry about, other than possibly stealing from the till, but there's not much in that till, so I don't have to,
Well-
I need to put in the till, not take out.
When it's your till,
Yeah.
it's not really stealing, so.
Well, I guess not. I
It's-
guess not.
It's very hard to steal from yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about end of life. We'll talk a little bit more about, there's something called 5 wishes and some things that you can easily access online, or your doctor's office should have it. And we'll talk about how those things work and what they mean. So don't go away, and we'll be right back with more of Here's to Your Good Health.
At Down East Hearing Care Associates, we are dedicated to taking care of every client by providing personal, high-quality hearing care services. My staff and I know hearing loss affects each person and their loved ones differently, so we give you the time and the care you need to ensure the hearing technology chosen fits your lifestyle. At Down East Hearing Care, we also make custom ear molds and specialize in emergency hearing aid repairs. Down East Hearing Care Associates has 2 locations, one in Knightdale and one in Rocky Mount. We have hearing lives to save.
Hi, I'm Richard Goss, pharmacist and owner of Almonds Drug Store here in Rocky Mount. Here today with my wife and 2 daughters. For over 75 years, Almonds Drug Store has been the pharmacy of choice for residents of Edgecombe and Nash County. Our family is proud to call Rocky Mount home, and we are excited about the new services and products we are adding daily at both of our Almonds Drug Store's locations and also at our medical supply store.
Come in and see us at Almonds Medical Supply. We're an extension of Almonds Drug Stores, your local hometown pharmacy. We're here to service all your needs, from wheelchairs to walkers to orthopedic supports to compression hose to hard-to-find wound care supplies. And you'll always get that hometown customer service.
We want our patients to pay the best prices, get the best service available, and have a better pharmacy experience than they will get anywhere else. Our staff is committed to going above and beyond to meet our patients' needs. Whether it is working with your provider to get you the best medication at the best price, contacting your provider to get you refills or a prior authorization, or taking the time to review each of your medications with you personally, or perhaps even helping you find an old-time remedy or other hard-to-find items, your Almonds Drug Store staff will work hard to meet your pharmacy needs. At Almonds, we will deliver your prescriptions for free. Both of our stores have drive-through windows, we guarantee short wait times, and our pharmacists will come out to greet you personally and answer any questions you have. If you want to be met with a smiling face, or even want someone to greet you by name when you walk through the doors, we are the pharmacy for you.
Call Almonds Drugs today.
443-3138 or 446-0014.
Hey, welcome back. This is Here's to Your Good Health. I'm here with Caroline Cusick Crawford, who's a JD, RN, MSM, MHA1, I, a BA, and a CEN. Now, I know at JD, Juris Doctorate, Registered Nurse, Masters in the Science of Nursing, Masters of Health.
Masters of Healthcare Administration, Informatics.
Informatics, that's the I. When did you get that degree? I didn't even know about that one.
In between the MSN and the JD.
And then BA is Bachelor of Arts.
That's right.
Because she started out as a journalist or writing in literature. And then CEN is Certified in Emergency Nursing.
Yes.
I thought I had a lot of letters behind my name.
Alphabet soup.
There you go. And you know what? We all put our pants on the same way.
Yes.
It doesn't really mean a whole lot other than we've gone to school and we have a lot of school loans to pay.
Yes.
That's what it means.
That's true. But, it shows that we appreciate learning.
Yes.
And we like learning.
Yes.
And are willing to put in the effort that it takes to get the knowledge we need
Yes.
to help the people around us.
That's right. And that's what it's all about.
That's right.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about 5 wishes, and that's one of the documents that I think if you just Google end of life, that should bring up plenty of information for you. But I would really encourage you to do that. If you don't have a computer or you don't know how to do that, your doctor's office should have paperwork to inform you. If they don't, call me at my office and we've got paperwork and I'll give it to you from our office, and you can, I think it's just really good to read over it. Kind of gives you, the 5 wishes. Caroline doesn't really like from a she thinks there's too many loopholes in it, but I think it's just good for general knowledge, so you can look over these things and say, oh, okay, well, I didn't think about that, or oh, what does that mean? And so you can kind of have these things in your head, or you can make a list of what you think you need to know, and then when you go see Caroline or an attorney I wouldn't know why anybody would go see anybody else, but I'm very biased. When you go to see Caroline, then you can say, well, what does this mean? I don't understand this. I don't want that at all. It gives you a kind of a foundation of what to think about, and there's probably, I'm sure there's other documents. I don't know the names of them. I only know the 5 wishes. That's the only name I can pull up off the top of my head, but there's others out there, and I would just read several of them and kind of make your decision. And if you're talking to mom, you might have to help her understand some of it. I'm not sure how in-depth it is. Sometimes people with limited education, or maybe they're starting to get to be a little forgetful, they might not quite be able to comprehend all that. I don't think it's in real detailed.
The 5 wishes is written in plain language. It's written for anyone to understand it. And it's a great tool to get a conversation going,
right,
and to keep you on task of talking about the big bullet points of end-of-life healthcare decisions. And it points out, some of the things that you're going to have to make decisions about. And it's a great starting place to think about what it is you would want to happen for you. Mm-hmm. Would you want a feeding tube? Would you want to be on a ventilator? Would you want life support? Or would you want CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation? Which a lot of people say, oh, I want everything done. I want to, do everything you can. But there are so many people who don't know what that really means,
right,
and what that really looks like. End of life can be an extended process, and the advance directive or the 5 wishes is not necessarily talking about all of the care that leads up to the end of your life. Mm-hmm. Those things, those documents are things that are going to step in and take effect once you have crossed that threshold of you're really not going to get better. Mm-hmm. But up until you reach that point, you have a whole different set of choices to make. So it's the 5 wishes is a great tool, though, to get started, to know what to talk about, to decide whether hospice is something that you like and understand. Mm-hmm. Hospice can be a short process, or it can be a long process. Mm-hmm. You can be under that kind of healthcare situation for a very extended period of time, and that's very different than looking at a situation where you have to decide whether to do CPR or not. So there's just so many variables when you talk about end of life.
Right. And with your mom, you've been dealing with this for several years now. So
yes.
My mom had dementia as well, and so it is so emotionally disturbing for the loved ones, and it's an emotional roller coaster, especially when the disease first starts. And so you'll have days where she doesn't even hardly remember you, and then the next day she's just like mom, and you think, oh, my mom's coming back, and then she falls back and she doesn't remember your husband or your child or whatever the situation is. And so it's really an emotional roller coaster. And there's such a thing as quantity of life versus quality of life. And I think most of us would want quality of life. That means you can get up and maybe, towards the end, maybe you can only get up and make yourself a sandwich or get a glass of water. I don't know. But, my mom laid in a bed like a vegetable, developing bed sores and multiple infections because of that for about 1.5 years or 2 years, and it is just awful. my children wouldn't go see her anymore. They couldn't deal with the emotional pain. I totally understood. I would force myself to go, but it was not pleasurable at all. It was more obligatory than anything. And but the quality of life is something that we all want to have a good quality of life. That's why I work, so I can plan a trip to go to Hawaii in 2022. I want to do things and have that quality of life. Quantity of life, you can extend those days, but many of those days can be miserable, and the one who is suffering with those days is the one who really, it's harder on them. And a lot of people, Caroline, they want that quantity of life because it's mama and they don't want to let go.
I totally understand. Something that we're seeing a lot of in the news right now is, of course, COVID-19 and people being ill with that. And even before that came along, we had lots of influenza and regular seasonal illnesses. And just for yourself, think about the last time you were really sick and you're stuck in bed. And for all of these people who are, have caught COVID-19 and they have been sick, and the 99.98% that recover, some are sick for a short amount of time and some are sick for a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Those 2 weeks that they're stuck at home, alone, isolated, suffering, feeling rotten, imagine if that was going to be the rest of their life. If they didn't have the hope and the assurance that I'm going to get over this. I've got a 99.98% chance of recovering from this in a short amount of time. I think 2 weeks is a relatively short amount of time.
Right.
Ordinary influenza will knock people off their feet for a week or two, even before this ever happened. But if you knew that the rest of your life was going to be bedridden, feeling terrible, not able to get up and take care of yourself, not having the energy to bathe yourself or feed yourself, and you knew that this wasn't something that was going to last 2 weeks, it was going to last the rest of your life. It would change your perspective, I believe, on your plan for riding that experience through. Because we don't enjoy being sick. We don't enjoy being stuck in the bed. We don't enjoy feeling rotten. We don't enjoy being unable to do the things that we love to do, to not have the energy to go and make your own peanut butter sandwich. We want to have that independence. We want to be able to toilet ourselves. If you need to go to the bathroom, get up and go and do it for yourself.
Exactly.
And when you are so sick for so long, you can't do that anymore. It's a different mindset if it's something you're going to get over. You're going to recover. You're going to recover from an accident, or you're going to recover from a surgery, or you're going to recover from an illness, even something as frightening for people as the idea of catching COVID-19. The recovery time has an end. There's a definite length of time, and you're going to endure, you're going to feel rotten for a little while. But when you are in different stages of life with different kinds of illnesses, and you don't know that there's going to be an end, that's when it's really important to have in place a plan before you get to that point, so that your family knows what you want to have done, knows how long do you think is acceptable to stay in that condition. And we don't live in a society where we help people to end their lives. But what we do have in place is a mechanism that will not force you to extend your suffering. It does allow the natural process of life and death, the natural process of dying to take place without being hindered. Because we as healthcare professionals in hospital environments, in healthcare, we have the ability and the technology and the medicines to prolong death. and it's not always pretty.
No.
It's not always pain-free. It's not always comfortable. And it doesn't always bring people peace just to have more time, like you
Right,
said.
right. And there's assisted suicide is legal in some states, but it's not here.
Not here. And that's not what this is about.
No,
This is,
no, I know, but
this is, some people think that by choosing to have an advance directive or a plan that it's anywhere like suicide, and it's
No,
not.
no, no.
This is not that at all. This is a totally different
I
perspective.
just bring that up because my youngest son and I had that conversation, and we were talking about COVID and people not being able to touch and feel others and all that anxiety, and there is an increased suicide rate now because of the
Yes.
COVID and the isolation of not being with other people.
Yes.
And he was saying, well, Mom, if something like that happened to me and I knew I couldn't get better, I would definitely have some way in place to end my life. And I don't agree with that because I think that's God's job, not mine. But, he's 35 years old. He can think what the heck he wants to think. I can't make that different. But, there are a lot of people who, when they're so isolated and so sick and so miserable, that thought of suicide crosses their mind.
That's true, and that brings up an important point about your healthcare power of attorney having the ability and authority to make decisions for you regarding your mental health as well as your physical body. There are sections of the advance directives of the healthcare power of attorney, and I believe of the 5 wishes, that doesn't only talk about your physical body and your physical needs, but also your mental health. And that is an additional step for people to be able to intervene on behalf of their family members and get them the mental health care that they need. It's very important to take care of that as well.
Yes.
Because as you mentioned, the depression and the sadness from being so alone and isolated can be overwhelming for people.
Yes.
It's not always. There are lots of resilient people who have great
Absolutely.
mechanisms for coping. We are fortunate now that we have FaceTime. We didn't have that years ago. We have phones. We have lots of ways to stay in touch with each other, but that doesn't take away the depression and isolation for everyone.
That's right.
So it's important that when you set up powers of attorney, healthcare powers of attorney, or your own advance directives, that you address those mental health needs as well. And those are in the state guidelines and the statutes that instruct us on what to include in those documents. Those are topics that are mentioned that
I didn't think about that, but it makes sense.
it's not an all-encompassing, or like I said before, it's not a one-size-fits-all document for people. And in order for that, bless you, in order for that authority to be granted to someone through a healthcare power of attorney, you have to make a deliberate decision to say, yes, I want them to have power of attorney over my mental health as well.
All right, it's time for our second break. I forgot to mention earlier that we are live, so if you want to give us a call, 407-1111. Caroline would be happy to answer any questions she could. She might have to look something up, like I do when you call me. Sometimes I don't have all the answers, believe it or not. But we'd be delighted to talk to you. And if you don't want to talk about end of life and you have another question, that's fine too. Just give us a call, 407-1111. All right, we'll be right back after this break for more of Here's to Your Good Health.
At Down East Hearing Care Associates, we are dedicated to taking care of every client by providing personal, high-quality hearing care services. My staff and I know hearing loss affects each person and their loved ones differently, so we give you the time and the care you need to ensure the hearing technology chosen fits your lifestyle. At Down East Hearing Care, we also make custom ear molds and specialize in emergency hearing aid repairs. Down East Hearing Care Associates has 2 locations, one in Knightdale and one in Rocky Mount. We have hearing lives to save.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
Hi, I'm Richard Goss, pharmacist and owner of Almonds Drug Store here in Rocky Mount. Here today with my wife and 2 daughters. For over 75 years, Almonds Drug Store has been the pharmacy of choice for residents of Edgecombe and Nash County. Our family is proud to call Rocky Mount home, and we are excited about the new services and products we are adding daily at both of our Almonds Drug Store's locations and also at our medical supply store.
Come in and see us at Almonds Medical Supply. We're an extension of Almonds Drug Stores, your local hometown pharmacy. We're here to service all your needs, from wheelchairs to walkers to orthopedic supports, compression hose to hard-to-find wound care supplies. And you'll always get that hometown customer service.
We want our patients to pay the best prices, get the best service available, and have a better pharmacy experience than they will get anywhere else. Our staff is committed to going above and beyond to meet our patients' needs. Whether it is working with your provider to get you the best medication at the best price, contacting your provider to get you refills or a prior authorization, or taking the time to review each of your medications with you personally, or perhaps even helping you find an old-time remedy or other hard-to-find items, your Almonds Drug Store staff will work hard to meet your pharmacy needs. At Almonds, we will deliver your prescriptions for free. Both of our stores have drive-through windows, we guarantee short wait times, and our pharmacists will come out to greet you personally and answer any questions you have. If you want to be met with a smiling face, or even want someone to greet you by name when you walk through the doors, we are the pharmacy for you.
Call Almonds Drugs today.
443-3138 or 446-0014.
Alrighty, we're back. We've been talking about cooking, staying at home. I don't even want to go out and eat anymore. Most of it does not taste good to me anymore. I don't know if it's me. I think it's because we've been eating at home so much, eating home-prepared foods, and Caroline makes her own bread. Now she's telling me how to make butter. She's a real Susie homemaker over here.
It tastes so much better. It's fresh. It's just, even if you cook rich foods at home, the additives and preservatives and the oils, I think, are just so much healthier for you than eating out, which is unfortunate for all the restaurants and businesses that are losing
that are making their living for that.
Yeah,
but anyway.
competing with our home cooking skills.
Yes, that's right. So, but sometimes it's just nice to take a break too.
Yes.
And but even, you know, Caroline and I have several other friends, and we get together 4 or 5 times a year. And we used to get together and go out into a restaurant, and we had so many, either the food was terrible, or
the noise in the environment,
or the waitress was horrible, or they didn't have the kind of wine we wanted, or, I mean, there was always something, it seemed, and most of it, I think, was the noise, though, really.
It was very hard to have a meaningful conversation in a public place.
We started doing things at home and cooking ourselves, and we've done that for a couple, we started last Christmas at Rita's, and we're going back to Rita's this Christmas. I had a tea party in February where we had, one of our friends is English, her mama was from England, and so she knows the art of making English tea. You know, I'm so crass, I just put a bag in water and put it in the microwave, and that's not, I mean, Brenda just cringes at the thought of that. But anyway, so, you know, it's just fun to do things ourselves. But anyway, back to this. So we've talked a little bit about end of life. We've talked a little bit about the 5 wishes. We've talked a little bit about the legalities and why you should have an attorney draw up these papers. And how expensive is that to do?
It varies. There's not any necessarily a one price point or formula for each person. There's a range of services, and you think about how important is this to your life and to your existence and to the peace of your family, and putting a price on that is very hard to do. I strive to make this accessible and reasonable for people to be able to access these resources. There are a lot of resources that people can find on their own, that you can go on the internet and do some research for yourself. But if you have done that research and still need legal advice, and would like to have guidance to get through the difficult terms and make sure that everything is going to hold up over time, that's when you need to consult an attorney. And to say that there's one specific price, how much does it cost, there's not a real clear-cut answer for that.
But it's not super expensive. It's not like thousands of dollars.
It doesn't have to be.
Okay, but it can be.
It can be. It can be. Some people have...
I'm going down the other end.
There are some people have very complex families and a lot of variations on the things that they need. So there's I don't want to mislead anyone by saying, oh, it costs this much.
You know,
the peace of mind and the value that you get from consulting with an attorney is really something that's hard to put a dollar amount on. It's because when you consult with an attorney, whoever it is that you work with, you're taking advantage of all of their knowledge and their resources. If they work in a firm with lots of other experienced people, you're getting the advantage of all of the years of experience that all of those people have acquired over a career of taking care of people and intervening and seeing what all of the pitfalls that can happen, all of the obstacles, and trying to muddle through on your own. Of course, people can do it on their own. I'm not saying they can't, but there are a lot of things that we can help you avoid and dangers we can help you avoid by consulting with someone.
Well, and I think of everybody in terms of my family. I've got 3 kids. I've been married to the same man forever, and so it's just Bob and I and our 3 kids, basically. But, you know, then you think about all these sensational news lines you read where this guy has 3 wives, or, you know, he's married wife number 5 and she's younger than his children are, and you can get into a lot of big fights over stuff like this. Keep them alive. I want that check to keep coming.
There are so many different variations.
Right. I think too small, because I live in a very small world, so I need to think out of the box a little bit, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with living in a small world.
That's right.
But,
me and the goats.
But the ability to consult with someone who can listen to the story of your family and find out exactly what your specific needs are, and then make sure that what you need is applied in your documents and in your planning according to the laws of the state where you live, so that all of the things that you need will be in place when you need it, or before you need it, before things get to that point.
So I just want to touch on hospice and what's that other, palliative care. And we don't have too much palliative care here. That's very big in Europe, very big in Canada. But palliative care is basically you have somebody that can help you with your health needs when you have a diagnosis that eventually will kill you, such as being on hemodialysis. Now, you might have 10, 15, 20 years before that disease process is finally going to end your life, but most people only have palliative care for the last 4 or 5 years. But it just it takes care of needs, and it helps. There's somebody there that helps you make decisions and go the right way, and should I get this extra shot of Lasix because I have congestive heart failure, things like that. We don't do a whole lot of that around here, so I'm not too well versed on it. But we do a lot of hospice care, and I am a huge believer of hospice. It is not only good for the patient, but it is good for the family. And about a year ago now, my son-in-law lost his mom, and his dad died when he was 4, so he only knew mom. That's all the parenting he had. And so he and his mom were extremely close. And he's got a brother, but his brother was, I think, 12 or maybe 16 years older. So his brother was more like a dad to him, really, than his brother. And so mom got very sick, and it was not curable. She would have had to go on dialysis, and that was not a guarantee. She was 92 years old. Up to that point, she had been very healthy, very lively. She danced with Kay at his wedding, and she was 88 or 89 then, and boy, she was just shaking a leg out on that floor. But this thing that happened, and I've got it written in my phone, I can't remember, it was some kidney disease, but when it happened quickly. And so I got a lot of phone calls from his brother and him and my daughter, and because they wanted the medical perspective, and they could ask me things they maybe didn't feel comfortable asking the doctor. But she was in the hospital for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then they did go home with hospice. And it was such a blessing for those 2 boys that they were losing their mama. And they were fortunate. They had a growing grandson that wasn't working at the time, so he would stay with grandma during the day, and then the boys who were working, they would stay with mom at night. And so she had 24/7 care with her family. But they had hospice, and it's so nice to know Kay would call and say, I think mom's in pain. Give her more pain medicine. Well, it says only 4 hours. Call your hospice nurse. I guarantee you can give her more. It's not going to hurt her at this point. We want her to be as comfortable as possible. Right. So hospice is really a blessing. I was talking to a friend today at a meeting that I go to on Wednesdays at noon. And she's very frustrated. Her grandmother is 98. And she lives near this friend, but she's a granddaughter, and the granddaughter's mother, who is of course the daughter of the grandma, has dementia, so she's unable to really make a lot of decisions. But my friend said, well, I think we should put grandma on hospice. And one of her sons said, oh no, then she can't choose what doctor she has. She can only have the hospice doctor. And I'm thinking to myself, she's 98 and has pancreatic cancer. There is not going to be a whole lot of choices in doctors. It's going to be a choice of how much morphine to give her to relieve her pain. But, and I think hospice has a bad taste in people's mouth, and it has a bad, if you're on hospice, you're going to die. Well, we're all going to die, and you can be on hospice. They kind of like you to be on for when they kind of project the last 6 months of life, but you never know. You can think she's only got a few months left, and she could go on for years. You don't know that, but it's just a real blessing for the family because they grow together, they learn together, they see how the healthcare worker is pouring into her or him and giving him all this loving care and maintaining their dignity and maintaining their pain level. And so I would encourage anybody to consider hospice if you've got family members that are in that stage of their life, in the final stages of their life.
The philosophy of hospice is not to deny people medical
Right.
care, but to give them the best care they can in their best environment, which would be in their home most of the time.
Right.
At this time, when people get hospitalized, that usually is the end of all visits and the end of contact with family, and isolation for the patient and the person who's suffering. And at that time, when it's so important to be together, to be with your loved ones, hospice, the plan of hospice and the philosophy of hospice, brings the care that you need to you where you are. It brings it to you in your home. And so you don't have to be separated. You don't have to be
Right.
apart.
Especially with all this COVID, there's just no way you're going to see your family. So if you have any legal issues at all, give Caroline a call, 252-822-2837, or you can email her at caroline@c3nclaw.com. I'll get that one of these days. Or you can call me and I'll tell you how to get a hold of her. So we've had a great evening. Thank you so much for coming, Caroline. I always
you.
enjoy having you. We
was a
get
pleasure.
to yap on the way here and yap on the way home. And so I will see you next week with more of Here's to Your Good Health. We're going to be talking about healthy eating in the holiday season, how you can maintain your health weight and have a good time at a party. So have a great evening, and we'll see you next week with more of Here's to Your Good Health. Good night.